Humans are cooked food omnivores. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And again, this is one of these things where people seem almost oblivious to it. You know, they always want to jump into all these arguments about, what's healthy, what people should eat, and then people get into these crazy fringe diets where you see veganism, carnivore, raw food diets, so on and so forth. And it's just so ridiculous because it's fairly obvious when you look at all the healthiest cultures on earth, the wide diversity of diets, uh, human, at least evolutionary history as far as what we can tell in terms of what we seem to handle eating and what foods seem to have given us the ability to develop larger brains and all of this stuff. So it's really interesting, that people go into all these other crazy directions. And the reality is, when you look at it, humans are generally supposed to be eating cooked vegetables, be eating cooked meat. This is what we have always eaten. Like these are things that have been staples in our diet for the entirety of the species. Like we have always been cooked food eaters. So when you see the kooky carnivores and people talking about the problems with certain vegetables and anti-nutrients and all these things, but when you look at the research and what all the best researchers say, they're like, yeah, but if you just cook it, you don't have these problems. Like these problems just almost completely go away. They only occur because people are trying to eat all these things raw. Okay, we get better nutritional value, and then all these various, anti-nutrients and things that people are concerned about, they're resolved by just cooking it. And again, it literally improves nutrient bioavailability. Okay, I'm not saying we can't handle some raw vegetables and things, but most of our stuff should be cooked. We handle raw fruits better. But that makes sense, doesn't it? But as far as vegetables, tubers, root vegetables, yeah, it's all supposed to be cooked. And we handle it extremely well. And all of it is correlated massively with good health, right? When we consume large amounts of these things. The same thing with various meats and dairy, soon as cooking is done, they become great. We could argue lactose intolerance with some dairy, but because some cultures and peoples on earth and different gene flow, have different rates of lactose intolerance. But these days, once we process it, we can do things to remove the lactose or cultured dairy like Greek yogurts, certain cheeses. It all seems to be amazing for our health, amazingly good for our health. Okay. So again, nonsense. The same thing with any concerns with meat. Well, you just cook it. Okay, and when we do these things, instead of ultra crazy processing, right? When we go away from whole foods, where it's like, oh, let's make all these really processed meats with all these extra nitrates and add all this extra fat back in after, all right, that's a problem, but that's not really meat, is it? All right, that's not a slab of steak that you've cooked. Okay, to be eating all the bacon and the sausage and other nonsense. Okay, those are not complete whole foods. The same thing we could talk about, all the processing of certain things where we get all these refined sugars and refined oils and all this nonsense. Okay, but that's highly refined foods. When we just stick to taking a lot of these foods and their whole sources and cook them, we do well on it, and we do really well with animal proteins. Right? In fact, we benefit greatly from it. Again, we come over to obesity, body composition. Animal proteins are dramatically superior. This isn't even debated. Like we know this looking at the research once we start lifting, and we know muscle mass. Right? Going through a lot of things with muscle mass and stuff. That even animal protein-free diets can cause a loss in it. And we know that it's extremely beneficial to our health to gain muscle. Again, look at all the problems from sarcopenia, and then plus the fact that we know that muscle mass is obviously useful for things like cancers, diabetes, all this stuff. It's well understood. It's well documented in the scientific literature. Okay. And again, we come back over to a lot of the vegetables. A lot of them, we have way higher bioavailability when we cook them. So in other words, what am I saying we should be eating? Well, whatever approach you want to do, a higher carb or a higher fat, any way you break it down, we thrive on cooked food. So examples. Well, if you did chicken, rice, broccoli, potatoes, stuff like that, right? That type of diet, that type of bro diet, it's extremely healthy. People do extremely well when they eat that, when it's all cooked food, extremely well. All right, especially the vegetables. Now, some stuff doesn't need to always be cooked. Same thing, we could talk the steak, egg, and avocado. I've always jokingly called that a diet. Extremely healthy. Now you could throw in some extra steamed or cooked vegetables, even better. But what are we seeing with all these approaches? Whole food, cooked omnivore diets. This is what we thrive on. Our ability to cook all the plants and animals around us is what has allowed the human species to dominate every continent. Look at how effective we have dominated all these different continents, and we've not only done that, we've managed to do so in an environment that feeds our higher brain capacity relative to body weight, which actually is difficult. Most animals can't do that. So cooking all these foods and being able to eat everything that we encounter, right? Because that seems to make most plants fine. Seems to reduce most of the risk and concerns of animals that we eat. Right? Oh no, there's some extra bacteria there. Oh, well, you cook it. Bam, problem solved. Oh, there's some anti-nutrients in these plants or things we don't digest well. Cook it. Done. Problem solved. Like our ability to get all this nutrition from all these vastly different environments and to thrive in those environments and to maintain high brain capacity, high IQ, high intellectual ability, all stems from our ability to cook. Stems from our ability to cook and our ability to assimilate all these whole foods that exist in all these different climates around the world. I mean, it's amazing when you look at how we've been successful as a species and all these, and this is why. It's because we are cooked food omnivores who've learned to cook to make more foods edible and nutritious to us from every area. All sorts of fruits, vegetables, legumes, grains, animals, dairy, eggs, all this stuff. Okay? Our ability to pick all of it, learn to cook it, and process it just enough to make it all healthier and safe. Right? That is why we've thrived. This is where we get the best health. This is also where we get the best body composition and the best athletic performance. Okay? So again, this is what we are supposed to eat. All right? All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.